Everybody.
The word שצריך לתקן. Tikkun means to bring some kind of spiritual rectification, some kind of, in Kabbalah we talk about a release of sparks that are trapped within the coarse sort of matter of the klipot.
אלוהי, נשמה שנתת בי, טהורה.
Okay, Boker Tov. Here we are in Netivot Shalom, Parashat Chayai Sarah, and for those of us who are following us in the book, we are on page Kuf Mem Gimel on the bottom, where it says Bayamim. That's the commentary is going to be hooked here on the pasuk Avraham Zaken Bayamim. Adonai berech et Avraham b'chol. That's the pasuk. In Avraham was old, coming into days. I'm translating here very literally, sort of like technically. Adonai berech et Avraham, and God blessed Abraham b'chol, with everything. And the teaching here, the beautiful commentary is about what does it mean to be old coming into days. It's an expression that doesn't really make sense in the literal sense. In a literal sense, I mean, you're coming into your days, meaning many days, or the end of your days, or something like that. But the Slonimer is going to go deeper here. What is the expression old of days, or old coming into days? What does that exactly mean?
Put in this verse into context. It's interesting. This verse is special because it sort of doesn't belong. It's sort of interrupting the two narratives of this week's parsha. The first part deals with the patira and with the death and burial of his wife Sarah.
That's right.
And there's a whole long story with a lot of dialogue about him acquiring a particular cave in Israel to bury his wife. And then that story ends. And then there's a new story which takes many, many verses regarding the seeking out and the finding of a soulmate, a wife for his son Yitzchak, Isaac.
Right.
And that takes up the rest of the parsha. Stuck in between these two stories is this one verse which seemingly comes out of the blue.
That's right.
It doesn't seem to have to do anything with the first story nor the second story.
That's right.
So it's a very important and much commented upon verse, particularly regarding this language, which is very strange.
Right. Yeah. So it's one of those verses that really calls for commentary and opens the door for lots of chokhmah, lots of wisdom. So we'll see what the Slonimer has for us, as he's also quoting a lot of other sages, and what our Talmidim out in cyberspace, what you come up with, and what, God willing, we can come up with. So we'll see where this goes. Ita B'Sefer HaKadosh Avodat Yisrael, it's written in the holy book, the Israel's divine service, on that, the following: Ki chol Yehudi yesh lo chelek b'Torah mileidato. Every Jew has a portion in Torah from the moment a person is born. V'chol yom vayom ma'ir lo nitzotz me'oto chelek. On each day in a person's life, there's a spark is lit from that portion of the Torah that belongs to him or her. Lefi ma shetzarich letaken b'oto yom, based on what a person needs to be correcting or spiritually accomplishing on that day. It's the word shetzarich letaken. Tikkun means to bring some kind of spiritual rectification, some kind of, in Kabbalah we talk about a release of sparks that are trapped within the coarse sort of matter of the klipot, and that's originally, according to Kabbalah, that's what tikkun means. Tikkun means is like we're bringing some kind of wholeness to a world that's broken. It's based on the whole story of the Shviat HaKelim, of the breaking of the vessels. But we, as human beings here on earth, as Jews, we need to fix something. We need to bring a little more completion, a little more wholeness into the world, and we get the spark from Torah to aid us on that spiritual mission that we have, that tikkun that we have for any given day. It's a beautiful. You'll see that what he's stressing is that this is not like a global, lifelong thing. You have this one mission and you have your lifetime to do it and you can take your time. No, every day there's a piece of that work that needs to happen. And that's, I think, what he's stressing here. And on every day is different, is unique. So no 2 days are the same. V'chatav, and it's written, ובגלל כן ראוי ליהודי להיזהר שלא יעבור עליו אף יום אחד לבטלה. And that's the reason that a person should be careful not to pass any day letting it go to waste. שלא יחשוב שידחה לימים אחרים את מה שעליו לתקן. So such a person should not consider or have the thought that I can delay to another day what I need to fix today. כי מה שלא יתקן היום, because what you do not fix today, הרי זה מעוות, לא יוכל לתיקון. That is a failure, and that opportunity that was unique for this day will not return. וכן איתה ביסוד העבודה בשם הארי הקדוש, and so it is written in the book Yesod HaAvodah, in the name of the holy Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, of blessed memory, שכל יום ויום, שעה ושעה, each day and each hour, אינו דומה אחת לחברתה, are not similar one to the other. מיום בריאת העולם והלאה, from the day of the creation of the world and forward. וכן אינו דומה אדם לאדם, מיום בריאת אדם והלאה. And in the same vein, no two people are similar since the creation of the first human being. ואין אדם אחד יכול לתקן מה שחברו מתקן. And there's no person who can correct or do the spiritual work that another person can do. והיינו שלכל יום יש ייעוד ותפקיד מיוחד, וכן לכל אדם. Thus, every day has its own role and its own purpose. And so it is with each person, with each human being. ועל פי זה מפרש מאמר הלל. And this is how we understand the saying of Hillel the elder, first century before the Common Era sage. So Hillel the elder said famously, if I'm not to myself, who will be? If I'm only to myself, who am I? And if not now, when? Right? So how do we understand if not now, when? כיוון שכל יום הוא יחידה בפני עצמה. That points to the fact that every day is a unique item. It's a unique section in time. ומה שעליו לתקן ביום זה לא יוכל לתקן ביום אחר. And what a person can fix on this day, a person cannot fix on another day. What a person needs to accomplish spiritually on one day, is that opportunity is not going to repeat on another day. This is a powerful teaching, and obviously he's looking at bayamim. So when the idiom in the pasuk says zaken bayamim, an older person who's coming into days, or into his days or her days, he's zeroing in on the way bayamim, of days. What's the meaning of days? It's not just random days.
Right. There's a famous story about a particular Hasidic leader who had passed away at not such an old age. He was in his 50s. And at the Levaya, at the funeral, one of the speeches, one of his sons gave one of the Hespedim, one of the eulogies, and he said in the eulogy that he said, my father had a richas yomim, which we bless our friends that they should have a richas yomim, that they should live a long life. Literally, it means long days, long life.
That's right.
After the speeches were over, another one of the sons of the departed rabbi came over to the brother and said, that was a beautiful speech, but our father, I mean, it is what it is. He died not such an old man. He was young. Why you say he had a richas yomim? That's for a guy in his 90s. You say he had a richas yomim. So he said, you didn't understand what I meant. He had a richas yomim. Every day he made long. Yeah. Every day was completely filled with purpose, and with focus, and with action, and a plan. You know, there wasn't by these people the idea of a day off.
It's a powerful thing about the urgency, right? The immediacy of every day. First of all, what strikes me here is the Slonimer often in his teachings, he comes very much from the love and heart-centered kind of place, and there's a lot of, often he offers a commentary that really talks to the heart, talks to flexibility, talks to sort of like more of a vast, fluid kind of way of doing Avodat Hashem, really from feeling. But here, it's not about feeling; it's about focus. It's a little bit out of character. It's almost a little scary. There's something about like, wow, if I miss a day, it's like.
Well, that's the question he's raising on the famous saying of Hillel, Im lo achshav imasa, if not now, when? Everyone quotes it, but the answer is tomorrow. What do you mean, if not now, when? Tomorrow. I'll take care of it tomorrow. Don't worry about it. What do you mean, if not now, when? Yeah. So he's tapping into a fundamental Hasidic principle that the Baal Shem Tov brought out, which, not to go into the depth of it too much, but it's called the idea of continuous creation. The idea is that just basically that God didn't wave the wand, create the world, and move away from it and set it into eternal motion. The idea is that like a ball which is thrown up into the air, so to speak, if there's no force working upon that ball to keep it up in the air, it will by its nature fall down to earth via gravity or what have you. The idea is that God is continually, at every moment, creating a new world, a new us. It's literally a new moment. So therefore, the opportunity that existed 1 moment ago literally does not exist.
Right.
It might appear in a slightly varied form. You might see it,
That's right.
the same way, but it's not the same opportunity. What you could have accomplished by doing it now,
Right.
you possibly will not accomplish that by doing it tomorrow. And this is the idea of Ba. So the difference between Zakein and Ba B'Yamim.
That's right. So based on here the Slonimer and the sources that he shared with us, to be coming into days is not just the becoming into a quantity of many days, like you said, Arichus Yamim, but it's coming into accumulating lots of days that count. And then he also says that every person is unique, right? So the tikkun that one person makes for the benefit of really of the klal, of everything, of the whole world, right? So we come in to fulfill some unique function in our lifetime, and also a unique function every day that only I can fulfill, right? I can't like take a break and say, Rabbi, can you come in and do my piece? It doesn't work that way, right? You got to do your piece, I got to do my piece. And the significance of that, it's very, on one hand, it's very beautiful, there's no double, I'm unique and my every day is unique, but on the other hand, it's a big responsibility too. It's like, it's really, you really gotta think about it, it's like, it's a big responsibility. So, lo yanum v'lo yishan, right? We don't want to fall asleep.
Right. An existential problem that people face is the search for meaning, right? So here we're saying, the Slonimer is telling us that the meaning and purpose, be careful what you ask for, in a sense. Oh, what does my life mean? I have no meaning, it doesn't matter. It matters so much.
Exactly. Exactly. You want meaning?
You got it.
Yeah, once you see the meaning, it's there's no turning back.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to continue here. We're skipping to the next column over. In your text, Rabbi, it's where it says number 4. It's the column. It's page Kuf Mem Dalid on the left side, and it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, around 10 lines down. Third word to the end of the line there. V'zeu ma shene'emar ve'Avraham zaken bayamim. And now he's summarizing. And this is what it means when the Torah says, and Avraham was old, coming in days. Shebechol yom b'fnei atzmo, that on each day, unto itself, in its uniqueness, Iched Avraham Avinu et hayichudim shel oto yom. Avraham, our ancestor, performed the unifications that were meant for that day. And unifications are, so yichudim, you want to talk about yichudim in the Hasidic tradition, to make a yichud, that means to unify with God.
Yeah, we have the ability, we have an unbelievable ability. I mean, prior to this, Avraham was blessed by God to be a blessing. We talk about Tikkun, making that it's an unbelievable, we have like a godly ability, Siyata Deshmaya, we're sort of like acting on behalf of God to set things aright that have been off kilter. You mentioned before, the Slonimer quoted the verse from Shlomo HaMelech, that which is crooked, literally, cannot be made straight.
That's right.
If you ever bend a paperclip and then try to bend it back to its original shape, it never, never exactly. So the idea is that, but the ability to fix things And that's to set things back on their proper path. And I could do that for myself. I can do that for the earth. I could do it for my fellow human beings, for animals, right? And that's the tafkid that I have. The challenge is, of course, to find what the tafkid specifically is. And that's why the Baal Shem Tov said that we were brought into this world for one reason, to help somebody. The problem is, you don't know who that somebody is.
So you better keep helping. So
keep helping. Keep fixing, whatever you can fix.
That's right.
And that's a yichud. Then you perform yichudim.
I'm also thinking about miyached yichudim from a spiritual practice, from a, let's say, from a prayer point of view, right? So we pray, right? So we as Jews, we have, Shachrit, Mincha Mariv, whatever. We have our Sidur, we have our prayer book, we have our methodology, you could say, right? That's been constructed by the sages over many, many centuries. But Avraham Avinu was miyached yichudim. That's before we had a prayer book. It's before we had a Torah, before we had a temple, before we had any of the things that Judaism, as we know it today, Jewish practice is. So obviously, Avraham was miyached yichudim. He was, in my mind, he was praying the prayer of that day because he had the capacity to know. He was connected in some direct way to Hashem. So his yichudim were, and based on everything we just learned, he had a prayer for every day. He didn't have a siddur where he repeated Shachrit, the same Shachrit, same the Shachrit for Sunday is the same as for Monday, as for Tuesday, as for Wednesday, more or less, right? But for him, it was a different tefillah for every day, right? So he's a miyached yichudim in that way. It's a very powerful thing because, for us, imagine if we could be like Avraham. If I really knew my tafkid for every day, I would daven a different davening for every day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in some ways, what we're doing now, we have to settle, for something less than what the freshness of what Avraham had. He knew who he was. He knew what every day demanded, and he had the words or the intentions, the kavanot for each day. That's how I read miyached yichudim. It wasn't the same verse every day, but it was in order to unify with God, but it was unifying with the same God every day, but perhaps in what, the meyuchad of that day.
Right, adapting to the spiritual reality of the now.
Yeah.
We've had leaders that their thing is to try to keep things the same.
That's right.
And there's room for that as well. There's a need for keeping things the same.
That's
but right. there were really special people, and I've seen Bnei Aliyah, and they're pretty few, who realized that the calling of the day was a different path, to do things in a totally new and different way, reacting to the realities on the ground, not ignoring the realities.
That's right.
On the ground.
For instance, Yochanan ben Zakkai at his time, or the Baal Shem Tov at his time, or whatever, the Gdolim, the Rambam, all kinds of people who had a calling. But that's more in the arc of history. That's a different. Maybe you're talking more about what's needed in the spiritual moment of a day, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, which is based on which is parallel to where history is taking us. Understanding that it's not necessarily what the solution was 100 years ago is not necessarily the solution now.
So we read about the commentary on Avraham ba bayamim. So how do we interpret? This is how we interpret that Avraham was old, coming in days. That every day he was in the moment of that day. But the pasuk says more than that. Vashem berechet Avraham b'chol, and God blessed Avraham with everything. That's the second part of the verse. And now he's going to offer us an interpretation of, okay, then what is the second part of the verse? This is talking about the flow of divine light, or abundant divine light, shefa, from the upper worlds to this world, to the lower world. שהשפע יורד רק כאשר יש מי שמקבל השפע. That this divine light flows down only when there is someone who is able to receive that light. וכאשר אין מי שיקבל את השפע, נעצר השפע ואינו יורד. But if there is no one in this world to receive that divine light, so then the flow stops and the divine light does not descend. וזהו פירוש ואברהם זקן בא בימים. And that is the meaning of, again, of Avraham is old, coming in days. שאברהם אבינו הכין את הכלי לקבל השפע. That Avraham, our ancestor, he prepared the vessel to receive this divine, the flow of this divine light. ועל ידי זה, and through this, Hashem berech את Avraham b'kol, God has blessed Avraham with everything. שקיבל את השפע בכל יום, since Avraham was receiving the divine light on each day. Because to me, Avraham Avinu is a model. If I only think of Avraham Avinu as the revered ancestor of my people, which is not to take away from the reverence, it's wonderful to have, it's wonderful for me to consider myself in the lineage of Avraham and Sarah and Yitzchak and Rivka and Yaakov and Rachel and Leah. It's wonderful, to connect to the ancestors in that way. But if I'm only revering ancestors of old, that's not enough. The question is, what do I do with that? How is that a dugma, an example for us today? What would you say? How's it? What does it tell us about being a Jew or a spiritual person today?
Well, just picking up on what you just said, there's a famous chazal, the sages say, everyone has to ask themselves, when will our deeds match the deeds of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah? So the famous Hasidic Rebbe, the Rebbe Reb Zusha, he used to say, when he heard that, he used to go like this, give a wave, and he said, they're not going to ask me, when I get up after 120 years into heaven, they're not going to ask me, why wasn't I Avraham? Why wasn't I Jacob? They're going to ask me, why wasn't I Zusha?
That's right.
Why wasn't I Zisha? In other words, why? That's the whole teaching today.
Were you yourself? How fully were you yourself, right?
Right. Why wasn't I Baba Yamim? That's what they're going to ask me.
That's right.
And it's I think that not to become, not to be a Baal Musar over here, give Musar to anybody. I'm the last one in the world, but I think just to be conscious, to be aware and awake of the fact, because I see it all the time. These wonderful tools, these smartphones, they're wonderful tools. You can find so much information so quickly on them. We can communicate with people all over the world in seconds, but to be sort of chained with head down while you're with another person,
right.
Checking the social media and checking this, and just it's like it becomes like a ball and chain of, and I'm thinking to myself, Babi Yamim, how much hours, at the end of the week they send me, I don't know if any people, they send me a thing, I don't ask for it, they send it to me. This week you spent X hours and X minutes.
Right, and is that a distraction from the destiny of that day, of the spiritual work of that day?
Right.
So one of the ways to make our days count is to really get away from those addictions and distractions, and especially with technology, and find sacred time in each day where I'm dialing in, to the upper worlds without technology, just dialing in direct. That's a yichud. Right. That's yichud,
Right.
1-800-yichud. Let's go out and make every day count. Folks out there, thank you again for studying with us today. Leave a comment below. I'm curious to know, how do you make your days count? How do you make more of your days count? Let's inspire each other. This is the conversation. This is the holy conversation that really helps make days count. Leave a comment below. Let's keep the conversation going. Like if you were inspired. Subscribe if you're not. And feel free to come back next Wednesday at around 9 o'clock for more Torah.
We'll go out with a happy, upbeat tune for a change. Good. Nie życie chłopcy, что jest na mnie budzie. I podjedem do koczonki, to mowakie budzie. Nie życie chłopcy, что jest na mnie budzie. Nie do końca do koczonki, to mowakie budzie. Everybody, bum bum ba-da-da bum 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 ba-da-da bum bum baby ba-da-da-da da-da-da-da-da-da bum bum